to convene into open session, please?
Apparently not.
Anytime, friends.
Reconvene into open session.
I second that.
Okay, roll call vote. Susan?
Aye.
Rochelle?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Peter? Janice? Elizabeth? Aye. Ayes have it. Motion carries. We're back in open session. All right, we have 2 action items regarding closed session business. Can I get a motion for our first action item, please? Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. It's before we do the public appearances. And so, okay. Let's see, I move approval of the employment contract for the Glacial Drumlin Associate Principal and the employee separation agreement and release, and I'm sorry, the employment contract as amended and the employee separation agreement and release as presented.
Great, roll call vote. Janice?
Aye.
Peter? Eric? Rochelle?
Aye.
Susan? Elizabeth? Aye. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Welcome.
That was it. Public appearances, we have none today. And so next up is the consent agenda. Yes, Eric.
Can I make a motion to move consent agenda item number 2, staff hirings, out of the consent agenda to vote on separately?
You don't ask for a motion for that, you just say. pull it out.
Okay, let's pull it out.
Great.
So we do that, and then we vote on the rest of the
All
consent.
right, so we will move out G2 to possible action items, and we'll get to that later. But for now, can I get a motion for the consent agenda minus
I move approval of the consent agenda items 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 as presented.
I second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries.
Now, if you want to do that.
Oh, do you
staff
wanna-
hirings, we can do it right now.
Yep, perfect. Can I get a motion for staff hirings, please?
I would make a motion for approval of staff hirings as presented.
I'll second.
Great. Do you want a roll call vote this, Eric? Okay, roll call vote. Janice?
Aye.
Peter? Eric? Elizabeth? Aye. Rochelle?
Aye.
Susan? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Great. And recognition.
All right, so a few recognition items that we want to do. Earlier in the meeting, like 30 seconds ago, we did take action. The board took action about approving a new associate principal for Glacial Drumlin School beginning July 22nd. So we're very, very pleased to welcome Tyler Zaspel as the new AP for the school. He has actually been a teacher there since 2021, and this past year has filled in on the leadership team there. So he is joining us from having experience in the Holman School District and bachelor degree of science from La Crosse, master's in education from UW River Falls, and he has gone through a pretty rigorous interview process of internal and external candidates, and we're super excited that you ran that race and won it, and just really excited to share with everybody just the passion that he brings for middle schoolers, because sometimes it takes a special heart for that. Had the opportunity to be at summer school and see Tyler saying good morning to all the kids and interacting with him, with just being really brand new on my second day and not even knowing who he was, and was super excited when I made the match between he was the candidate. So super excited about that. Just really think his enthusiasm and creativity will lend a lot to that school community as we move forward. So welcome aboard, and I'm super excited to have you. As summer school wraps up this week, it is the week 4. So just a huge special thank you to all of the staff from the school that have come forward and continue to serve in summer school. We know that kids have a much better experience and parents feel better about it, and everything works better when it's our own staff. So just really appreciative to all of the SEAs and the EAs and the teachers and the librarians and the office staff that come together, because really when you run summer school, you really build a school. really quickly to run for like 4 weeks, half days, and then you turn it off. So it's a lot of build up to go, and had the opportunity to be at all of the different summer school sites and meet people and see kids and talk to parents. And so really appreciative of that. So thank you. We have a Monona Grove High School student, Trinity Culp, from the class of 2025, that's been awarded honorable mention for aspirations in computing high school award by the Wisconsin affiliate of the National Center of Women and Information Technology. She recently designed and coded in Python a chatbot designed to help her with one of her biggest inconveniences, never knowing where to go eat. And the bot depends on factors such as the number of people, food type, wait time, and more. Trinity hopes to find a career where she can apply and grow her coding skills and more. She also really wants to continue all things about outer space and her knowledge. She plans to go to college for a degree in aerospace or aeronautics. That organization is the furthest reaching network for change leaders focusing on advancing innovations for correcting underrepresentation in computing. So congratulations to Trinity, and we look forward to seeing what her bot does. I might need it.
Great. Thank
That's
you.
all I
All
have for recognitions tonight.
right. There are no correspondence and announcements today, so back to you, Tanya, for your first ever superintendent report. Welcome to your first board meeting.
Well, thank you. So just really pleased to say, an honor to be here. Super excited to get started. It felt like it was a fast process, and then it felt like it was like paint drying to get to July 1st. So super excited. My family has settled into the community, and it's been a really warm welcome from community members, staff, and families. Got to meet students, being at summer school. So it was a nice little, as Eric pointed out, the work hasn't really started yet because it's summer, but it's been really a great opportunity. So thank you for everyone in the community that's reached out, and people that have made appointments to talk, and just really looking forward to getting to know the community more. I did have the opportunity to attend the Monona Grove Educational Foundation meeting this afternoon. So it was nice to meet more people and hear a little bit about how they contribute to the school district and partner. And I'll meet with the executive director or president coming up to talk a little bit more about what that partnership can continue to grow and look like. So looking forward to that opportunity. It's really nice because there's a lot of alumni families on there. So get to hear, a lot of those kind of things and how passionate they are about really partnering with the school district. So looking forward to continue that. Technical update, Title IX policy was recently revised at the federal level. The regulations did not come out until late spring. And so by the time the attorneys and everybody go through those to think about how do those, that change in federal law and the regulations manifest into how schools, K-12 and higher education operate, it took a while. So we are still working on finalizing the draft of the new changes. They're very technical changes. There's not a lot of input we get to give in it, but we do need to go through that. So the policy committee will be working on that in July, and we'll have a draft of that new policy for the August board meeting. I just think it's important to note and just to name that the federal law does go into effect August 1st. And, just knowing, talking with legal counsel and how those things go forward, if there were to be any Title IX complaints between August 1st and when the board member or the board passes it, we would use the new regulations and process, and we would work with legal counsel through that. So we've got that small gap, but not a worry about it because we know what would need to happen. But of the 425 school districts in the state, most are in exactly this place because of the turnaround time. So, and then wanted to update, we're in the process of a human resources hire, and we're hoping that we'll have somebody put into that position in the next week or so. So we continue to work on that. And then last, yesterday, we did push out a message to the staff and the families about my 100-day plan. And we had put together a couple slide decks that we want to walk, or a couple slides that we want to walk through about what that looks like. And so people can know what to expect and what I would be looking for as I'm meeting with people. So, first I think in really listening, right? A really good opportunity for me to meet with people, talk with people, and listen to what they have to say, and really get an understanding of people's perspective. The other part is just building trust, and that comes with spending time with people and hearing their stories and their experiences. And most of those experiences are going to be really positive, and some of those experiences might not be, and that's okay. We just need to know like where are we at, and then how do we come together as a community. Developing those relationships, I really want to be able to put the names to the faces and the families and the teachers and learning those things. So that's going to take me some time. And then taking what I've learned and thinking about how we use that to collaboratively plan where we want to go forward through that time. So the goals for that, just developing a really highly effective team through trust and collaboration. As administrative cabinet, we've been meeting weekly, really trying to get to know each other, get to know the work, really think about what those goals are. That really is helping to strengthen and foster those relationships. As we move through that first 100 days, really thinking about where are we at with our strategic priorities and really beginning to think about how do we champion those priorities, really thinking about it from a data-based decision perspective. How are we looking at teaching and learning, business and operations, finances, hiring, all of those things, from a data lens and thinking about how that's meeting the goals. And then looking forward to working with the board from a strategic planning work session to think about, if I'm successful this year, what have I delivered on? And how can we name that and share that?
You mean when you're successful?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. When. So outcomes on that, I want people to know that I'll be putting together a summary of that feedback, really thinking about some of that high level evaluation of our structures and systems, programs, environment and finances, and then an assessment of, how are we currently looking at how we do business, and are there any changes that we might want to consider as we think about productivity, efficiency, and effectiveness. And then just understanding how we're going to perform that short and long-term planning, including the development of some key indicators. Again, how are you going to know if I've arrived on what the expectations are? And so, I do believe in, we need to inspect what we expect. So how will I deliver on that these things are happening? And so the community can expect that every 30 days in that 100 days, we'll push out a video updating people on some things. We'll update the website with where I'm at with those plans. And then obviously, we'll push out through email what that document update looks like. So again, I just encourage people to log onto the website. You can watch the video, don't watch the video. We'll see if we'll check those click rates and see if that's a good mode of communication and go from there. But then you can also read the written plan and some of those expectations. And, my voicemail's up and going, my email's going. Please, I encourage people to reach out because we really want to form those relationships as I spend the year listening, learning, kind of thinking about, how things are going. And then we come together to think about where we go next.
Questions or comments?
Well, that's really thorough. Thank you so much. That's really cool.
Anybody else? Yeah, I agree. I'm very excited to dive in and read through, and I'm excited to dive in and do the work. And I think that it'll be great for the community, especially to have kind of a consistent cadence of when to expect information to come out. And I think that will feel good to everyone moving forward and promote transparency and accountability, and also kind of modernize the way that we think about things and do things. So I'm very excited for it, and I appreciate the effort that you've put into it. I'm sure with Katie's help and the rest of your A-team's help in putting those things together. So thank you. And thanks for your work, Katie. Nice visuals as always.
Branding.
Yeah, it's great. Great. Anything else? All right. Well, our next firsts, Kristen Sobocinski here with her first report to us, this one on the theme of DPI July 1 state aid estimate.
Very exciting topic for my first.
Welcome to the
agenda
Monona Grove
item.
School Board. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here. So the Board of Education did approve the 24-25 preliminary budget at the June 12th meeting. At that meeting, our aid was estimated to be $19.2 million. The DPI did release the July 1st aid projection. It is just an estimate, but it gives us a good idea of kind of what direction we're heading. And that estimate was 23 million. So it's not additional funding, but it is property tax relief. So to the tune of, $3.8 million, which is very good news. There's a lot that will happen between now and then in terms of other school districts and how they end the year and how how everything gets distributed. Obviously our enrollments will drive a lot of our property taxes. But this is very good news for the district in terms of taxes.
Yes, Eric.
Yeah. When you say, can you explain a little bit more when you say it's not additional funding? Because the perception from a lot of constituents is that it is additional funding. There seems to be a lot of confusion, so.
Yes, it's always very important when, you'll see the news and they'll say, oh, the state is giving school districts, $1 billion more. And, everyone celebrates and, oh, it's not a great thing, but it's really important to, listen to, is it aid? Aid is property tax relief. It's not more money for schools. Revenue limit drives everything. So anytime they talk about adding a per pupil amount to the revenue limit, that is more money. Or categorical aid, that is more money. General state aid is just for property tax relief.
So people in the both Cottage Grove and Monona will see their property taxes decrease?
It depends on a lot of factors. It depends on the municipality's value and what that does from year to year. The individual homeowner's value, have they been reassessed? Has the municipality been reassessed? So it's hard to say. Overall, you would think as aid increases without, thinking about all those factors, yes, it should. If our levy goes down, it should. But the municipalities themselves could increase their taxes. And sometimes people don't delve down into the details and my taxes went up, and they don't realize, oh, well, the school portion went down, but the town or the village or the city went up. So there's just a whole host of things that go into that. Also you have the county taxes, everything. So from the school district perspective, this should mean, looking at last year's levy and what was projected for this year was a $3 million increase. So it looks like we may have a slight decrease if all those projections stay the same. But like I said, there's a lot of, if we get a huge increase in pupils, resident pupil count, we get to generate a lot of revenue, which is good, but that also has tax implications. So it's all kind of, there's a lot of factors in place. But we'll know more in October and we'll be able to look at things deeper. I mean, we can even pull individual taxpayer tax bills to look at things, because a lot of times we'll get calls if, there is a large increase, why did my taxes go up? And it's just an opportunity to kind of walk through that and show them the why. Is it their property value? Is it the city taxes? Is it the school taxes? And, maybe it's a good conversation to have about school funding and or the lack thereof. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I just would say that it's probably been the number one thing I've heard feedback from, and the confusion with that, especially for residents in Monona who have just got a survey, and we may have an increase in taxes, is trying to distinguish the difference between those
Right.
things. So.
And a lot of thing with the reassessment, one of the things you want to look at is, did your property value increase more than the average or less than the average? If it's less than the average, that means a good thing for you, because then you're paying less of the total pie. If it's, if the average is 10% and your value went up 10% and the levy stayed the same, it would be no impact. Even though your house is valued more, there would be no impact. But if you're over, then you're going to pay more of the pie, and if it's under, then you're going to pay less.
Peter.
Question, do you know, I mean, it was a fairly substantial difference. What was the origin of that,
Well, we did have increase in pupil count, which the aid calculation is based on your property value per student. So if your student number goes up and your property value doesn't increase at the same rate, that's good for you from a per pupil value, because they want to spread the aid by need based on property value per student. It's also based on shared costs per student. So if your number of students go up and your expenditures don't increase at the same percentage, that's also good. There is additional funding in the pot next year. So those three factors kind of played into things. But again, we'll find out how we end the year. We'll have conversations about how 23, 24 is going. And if our expenditures are higher than what we budgeted, that's going to have the opposite impact on aid. So there's a lot of things to still happen to determine our final aid and levy.
Thank you. And welcome.
Yeah. Any other questions for Kristen? Thank you, Kristen. It was very informative. All right, next up is board reports. Personnel Committee, Philip is not here, but Peter said that he would give a quick overview of your last meeting.
Well, we met on June 17th, and it was essentially because there were a lot of issues just to discuss. And we had a discussion about, these issues come up with discussions about additives, things that are going on in the handbook, the teacher's handbook, the schedule for additives and how we do that and some of those things. And then the overall, the supplemental compensation. And we had some pretty big discussions. We were just trying to wrap our head around all of these kind of sort of larger things and then sent out for, find out what additional information we need. And our next meeting is Monday, the 29th, and hopefully we will resolve some of these issues then.
Any questions for Peter or Janice? Yeah.
Is your hope that the next, when do you guys meet? August, you said?
June 29th
July
of
29th.
July.
The contracts will be finalized? Contracts finalized
This
for the teacher?
This is, I don't know, we'll have to talk to Phil about where we
Got it.
are, field with.
But they're still in the process?
We're still in the
Got it.
process, yeah, we're definitely still in the process. Some of these things are not contract issues like the teacher handbook.
Yep.
The thing is the supplemental compensation
Yep,
would be
okay.
a contract issue, and that's always a complicated
Is it?
subject, exactly how to do that, yeah.
Yeah,
Sooner
Tanya.
the better.
And I do just want to share that as we move forward with kind of our reorganization with an assistant superintendent, Kristen Sobozinski will be taking over as being the person who works with the chair, so with Philip. So she'll be at those meetings and working through those things as we go forward. So,
My understanding, you guys met this week, and it was a very lovely, successful meeting.
Yes, we did.
It's great. Great. Any other questions for personnel? All right, next up, Susan, Monona Grove Education Foundation.
The Monona Grove Education Foundation met today at 4 o'clock to 5:30. So I was just seeing if Tanya was going to make 6 o'clock, if I was. They did reports and announcements, and they did an introduction of guests because they have some open board seats. And the current guests that were at the meeting today were Katie Moreau, Maggie Jakubczak, Lorene Gage, and Jared Rosen. Then there was a superintendent report, and I made all the notes about listen, build trust, develop relationships, and learn a plan. Effectively, they saw the same slide program that you just saw and had a discussion and asked questions. It was very interesting, and it was a little bit of a meet and greet. So that went on for a while. New business, they had a show choir request for a grant, basically a grant inquiry, to assist with a show choir trip. And they had a full discussion about it, and will consider a vote in August. Old business, I think I told you about this at their last meeting. They actually went and collected at all the schools, all the lost clothing, cleaned it, and they're now working on how to return it to buildings. So they were looking for volunteers that would help sort by size. They thought that might help. I don't know. So if you're interested in helping. With their CARES campaign, they generally run a fundraising event like the golf ball drop or the dinner. Now they're making directed requests for donations, and they're working on the sponsorship and the individual donations. The communications committee is working with the high school. They still are trying to do some kind of event with homecoming. The weekend snack pack program, again, it's pretty impressive. the Education Foundation made additional donation to the snack pack program because Monona Munchies did not operate this year and probably won't continue to operate. And those are the free lunches for all kids in Monona during the summer. So this way they could help balance that piece off using summer snack program. Their average weekly number of students for the snack pack program, not necessarily summer, is 161, which is a 6% increase over last year. The scholarship committee is working on fundings, and there's no other business, and they adjourned in time for us to get to the 6 o'clock meeting.
Thank you, Susan. Any questions for Susan? Great, thank you, Susan. All right, possible action items. Number 1, the annual declaration and parent notice of district's student academic standards.
So annually, it's required, the first board meeting in July, for the board to review standards that are used for our academic curriculum. And so then we will, once you look at this, then we make sure that it is publicly posted for families to be able to look at any point. So when curriculum is written, they're written in accordance to the academic standards, and we have to report on the 5 of them. So mathematics, science, reading, writing, geography, and history. And so if the links are available there, there's also a PDF in which we put those in so that families can easily access them. And they change from year to year as curriculum changes. There's changes that had happened with, for example, the NGSS standards for science were then adopted by the state of Wisconsin. They're pretty similar. So that update was made, I think, last year. Correct? Yep.
I think it was actually a little bit before that.
Yeah, for Wisconsin. So it's an annual opportunity that we bring these forward, and then it will be put into online registration with the annual notices.
I would move approval of the annual declaration and parent notice of district student academic standards that will be in effect for the 2024-25 school year pursuant to sections 120-12, paragraph 13, and sections 118-30, 1G and A of the state statutes as presented.
Second that.
Further discussion?
Yes.
Yes, Janice.
Our website lists those, and then there's one paragraph that basically has the district selected and implemented academic standards in other content areas. And there's one very short paragraph that says, yes. I would really like it if we would list all the academic standards, because the ones that are listed are maybe, I understand that they're the ones that are required by law, but a lot of like music and art and PE and tech ed and all of those other subject areas have academic standards. And if we don't even list them, some people won't know that they're there. So I would really like our district to show on the website each of the content areas that has academic standards so that parents can go there instead of seeing something that says, hey, there's this other list. Like we actually say, here's the art standards. You can check it out at this link. Here's the PE standards. You can check it out at this link. I would like our website to show that.
I think that's a great idea too, because I agree with you. I don't think people, they look at these core, classes and they don't realize how much rigor goes into all those other classes as well.
Things like those seem like those other things are not important.
Right?
Yeah. Peter or Susan? Or sorry, Peter, you spoke. Eric or Susan?
Yeah, sure. I don't think anybody's looking at it. I don't know who looks at it, but people do, I suppose. You want to
Yeah.
overestimate people that look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that when we think about the totality of student learning, right, it's not just your core academic subjects. And there are standards for music, art, bio-ed, social emotional learning has standards too. And I don't think it is that much effort to put a couple new rows on a grid. So that seems reasonable to me, unless there's some kind of concern or unforeseen risk Lisa or Tanya?
No, there's not, and I think, when you look on the website, there's a link to the full list of the model academic standards, and they are all included. They just aren't on that separate list that we do isolate to send out for
Yeah.
families. To Eric's point, probably not the most open documents that we have for families to look at, but easy enough to rectify.
But also on the website, I mean, you come in and it says academic standards, and if you're just a parent, you don't have kind of a clue. I mean, you think this is all it is. And I think to broaden the language in terms of the other things that we do as a kind of PS or somewhere in here is important. The other thing is, we don't, and maybe I'm just missing, and maybe it is here toward the end, but, I mean, basically what we should be saying is academics, I mean, this language, under section 122, under the state law, each school district must annually notify parents and guardians of the academic standards that the school board has adopted pursuant to this law, or that is required to adopt pursuant to this law. And these are listed here. In addition, in our district, we also do this. If you start reading this, you don't have, it looks like it's something just your school district does. And it's really, it's like a speed limit. It's a statutory requirement. So I would just say state law requires. And then I would also put in the language about, it also requires the notification piece. And maybe that's here too, but I didn't see it clearly.
It's on the bottom.
Requires.
So we're looking on the notification piece.
Yeah, it says-
Does the district have academic standards? And what are the academic standards? It says state law requires the district.
And again, I think the explanation language is very good. How do the district's academic apply to learning goals? That's really good language and helpful. But to basically say, by the way, we're required to do it this way, that might be helpful for people to understand why it appears to be limited. And then that gives you the ability to broaden it. It's just an idea, and I would support that if the rest of the board feels comfortable with that.
Thoughts? Great. My only kind of thought, which is the same thought I have every July, which is how we meaningfully engage families in academic standards and in curriculum. I think to your point, Eric, like this doing it meets our basic requirement. It's not quite the same, I think, as having folks really understand what curriculum instruction is, what the standards are, kind of what the expectations we have for youth, and then how families can support at home. And so would love to continue to see us push the family engagement pieces. All right, if there's no further discussion, let's take a vote. Right, we moved a second, I thought so. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. All right, next up, the use of an expulsion hearing officer for the 2024-2025 school year.
So state statute does allow districts to make a determination if they are going to contract with a hearing officer that you would use in the event, independent hearing officer that would determine pupil expulsions. And my understanding that annually, typically have made the decision to yes, do that. So the resolution is attached there. So would open it up to discussion for the board as presented.
Yeah, Susan.
I would like to move approval of the use of an expulsion hearing officer for the 2024-2025 as presented.
Second it.
Any further discussion? Yes, Peter.
Expulsions is the most difficult thing we do as board. And there's always a limited time, and we use a hearing officer, and then it gets pitched over the wall for the board to decide. And particularly with the new superintendent, the last thing we want to do is get a situation where there's a difference between where the board is in this space and the administration and the hearing officer, because that could be a significant problem, particularly because we don't have any time to, work those issues out. So I would like to suggest that we set up a meeting, perhaps during the board workshop or something where we spend an hour so that they can, and it's so that that hearing officer can hear from us and just can see what our expectations are. And particularly also because you Tanya, would need to hear, I think you need to hear that because it's a question from the board. We take it extremely seriously and it could be problematic. So I think having us all on the same pod would be a good idea. So I'd like to ask sooner or later if we could have a meeting to have that discussion. It might also be helpful to do that in closed session so we can discuss, because putting these things in terms of some of the things we've done recently,
Right.
the specifics might be useful. And I just want to make this as useful as possible.
Yeah, I agree with that, Peter. So we'll work on getting something scheduled, either late summer or very early fall, but before we're in a position where we have to do that again. Usually the end of the year, but,
Yeah.
but I agree with you. Other questions or comments? Yeah,
I also agree with Peter. I think it's really important. I mean, if you read whatever it is, the 60 pages of the presentation of evidence and the review of evidence, straight up, no matter what your background is, that piece might be a little bit beyond the board to be able to do that. So to have the discussion about how you want to use that person might be helpful, particularly as we have new people on the board and they might have thoughts about that. But again, go back and look at anything recently and just read through the court part of the proceeding. And, but I also agree, I mean, so I'm caught between go ahead and improving it so we're utilizing that at this time and then having the discussion. So I'm not sure what the board, how you want to proceed. What's the easiest way to proceed? Just waiting to, so if we don't approve a person at this time and we have an expulsion, we don't have anybody to do the legal overview.
yeah, that's a really good point, Susan. So my understanding, and Peter, correct me if I'm wrong here, is that we are still going to vote on, and I'm making the assumption that we're going to be in favor of having an expulsion hearing officer, because to your point, it's a lot of work. There's some thoroughness there that's done. And I think, and we've talked about this, I think in some of our previous sessions too, this idea of we've never actually met our hearing officer, like in person. And so it'd be nice to meet them and, talk with them a little bit about what those processes are. We've talked also about bringing in administration, particularly at the high school, to think through kind of how do some of those violations of code of conduct get handled prior to expulsion, right? Because we've had some experiences where we saw stuff where we're like, oh, we didn't realize that was even an option that happened. And so just kind of getting a more total picture of what it is.
Process.
And also, I think to Peter's point, it's really important that our hearing officer, who, we are like agreeing is going to be our hearing officer, understands our point of view, understands where we're coming from as a board collective, so that factors in when they're making their decisions that then get put to us. So I think that's the question that's on the table right now. Not so much around whether or not we should or shouldn't. We will vote on this.
And we did actually, when Shayna Lewis
That's a while ago.
started working with us, she spent quite a bit of time going over the processes. And I think it would be extremely helpful to do that again.
Yeah. So we'll schedule something, hopefully. Yeah.
For people that haven't had that experience.
Yeah, well, and the world is a different place in 2024. So I think it's important to think about that too.
But it's important, I mean, she's a good process, but it's also important that she hear from us.
Yes.
Because she's essentially trying to
Works for us.
figure out where we're going to fall on this. I mean,
Exactly.
a real problem, if the expectations of the staff and the administration, the high school staff and so on, versus an expulsion differs from ours, that could be a real problematic issue. And so we want to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
And I 100% behind having the expulsion hearing officer, and also I think Shana's been doing an excellent job, so. But this contract, by the way, this is not a contract. This is just an authorization for.
Resolution.
A resolution saying that this district will,
Pursue.
can hire, enter a contract with somebody to do this.
Great. Thank you, Peter. Anything else? Janice? All right. You look like you were leaning in to say something. I was
I was
ready.
waiting for you to call.
You got excited?
Yes.
We did, yeah. All right, we'll do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, motion's carried. All right, our last possible action item, the 2024-2025 lease agreement with American Capital Financial Services Incorporated.
Yes, at the June 12th meeting, there was an agenda item for another lease for Google Chromebooks and for teacher equipment. I don't have the paperwork for that. That will be on the August meeting, but it did indicate that we would bring that forward today. So I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware that that is coming, but that's not this lease. This lease is for some storage and some switches that are needed for the district. We needed some more storage. It is a 4-year lease, similar to our other leases, and it is $140,000 per year for those 4 years. So first payment is this year and then 3 years after. It's my understanding that for technology purchases, this is sort of the way that the district handles those on a recurring basis.
Storage of
Data.
data.
And most of the cost is the network switches and so on.
Largest costs.
Oh, go ahead, if someone wants to call the motion, I just have a question. Is it unusual to have the storage separate from the devices in separate agreements?
I think this came up earlier in the year as a need
Got it.
for some, they just ran out of storage and they needed to have it. And so this was sort of a different,
Got it. It's just,
doesn't necessarily always happen every single year.
yeah, it's like an anomaly. Okay, thank you.
I move approval of the 2024-2025 lease agreement with Capital Finance Services, Inc. as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, voice vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. All right, last thing is future meeting dates. So we will have our Board of Ed meeting back at its usual, same bat time, same bat channel, Wednesday, August 14th at 7. I will let you all know if there'll be a closed session there. I will also send out an email, since our first round of trying to schedule a board workshop was very unsuccessful. I will set up another round. July is hard, so I think we'll probably look into August. But if you're thinking about it before I get those emails out and there's any no-go dates for you in the next 6 weeks, send them to me. Otherwise, I will work with Tish and Tanya to get some dates on the calendar.
I won't make the next board meeting, so
Okay,
I'll be on vacation the first 2 weeks of August.
have fun. We'll miss you. Will you miss us while you're on vacation?
Huh?
Will you miss us while you're on vacation?
The answer is no.
Let the record show. All right, if there's nothing else for the good of the group, can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
Adjourn.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned at 7:43 PM. Thank you, everybody.
Less than an hour. Don't get used to it.
Tish called me. She's like,
No kidding.
7:45.
I mean,
Tish said 7:40. She'd be done. And I was like,
I bet you could get it within 10 minutes.
I shouldn't get used to it.
You should have a tissue.
Well, we had a big debate about should we have 2 meetings per month or 1 meeting per month to start that. And so with one.
Nice meeting, Elizabeth.
Then
Yeah.
Sometimes they go long.
sometimes they go long.
all right.
Have a good night.
Absolutely, you too.
Bye, Kristen. Should we?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I just saw it, and I'll doodle it right now.
I'm sorry.
No, that's totally fine.
I'm just sending out the doodle. I'm gonna be that.
I think that's way easier too, because when I was responding, I was like,
I can. It's the summer
Summer. Yeah.
and you're not gonna bring up anything big or controversial.
Basics.
Exactly. You're
Right?
gonna do the basics, it's gonna be the
Yeah.
basics for a little while.
Still for a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to do that too.
Thank you. Bye.
And-